Good afternoon, Charles Moscowitz here. So, was Hitler and the Nazis, were they Zionists? I feel compelled to get into this issue because I'm seeing a lot of anti Jewish and even anti Semitic activity on the internet and on YouTube in particular. And even it's gotten so crazy in terms of anti Israel that Adam Green, who is a very influential YouTube host, went out with a live stream yesterday, basically implying that Israel, or the Zionists, as he says, were involved in or implicated in the burning of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which is a disgusting lie, unless he can show a shred of proof of that. These kinds of libels are really despicable. He's entitled to his opinion, but I'd like to see evidence, even some basic link to that. Um, and I also had on this program Christopher John Bajorkness, who has a very elaborate and well articulated anti Jewish conspiracy theory and several theories, including that Hitler was a Zionist. And his work is one of these, it reminds me, frankly, of talking to communists and far left wing professors and various figures, which I've done over many years, where they bring in a whole plethora of little facts and undigested quotes, and then they kind of string them all together and they come up with these sweeping and overarching conclusions, and they kind of jump around. And then when you challenge them on it or you say you reject something, they have a complete meltdown. And that's what happened with him. And this was after he said to me that the Jewish people have a different character than everyone else. And that wasn't, and he wasn't saying that in a way that we have a better character either. So I challenged that, and that's what led to his meltdown. But the whole subject has led me into what I think is probably going to turn into, hopefully, a long, deep research, a deep dive on my part, not just into the nature of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories, but a study of the Talmud, a study of Zohar and Kabbalah, given the fact that these Jewish documents are very much wrapped up in these conspiracy speculations and often I think misrepresented, but I want to do the research myself. And I'm going to have on experts because they may not be totally wrong in certain areas. I mean, this is something that I'm not by no means an expert on those documents and on those disciplines. So I'm going to be going in, as I say, on a deep dive on that. But today I want to address this one issue that's kind of rankling in my mind right now, and this charge that the Nazis were Zionists, that Hitler was a Zionist. And this is based on and some people even take it a step further. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to give them publicity, but they go so far as to say that Hitler and the top Nazi echelon actually were secret Jews. That's preposterous. And that's ridiculous. But I don't want to go into that. I want to go into whether or not they were pro-Zionists. Of course, they weren't Zionists. In order to be a Zionist, you have to go to Israel and settle the land as a Jew. I'm not a Zionist. I'm pro-Zionist. I support Israel. But in order to be a Zionist, I'd have to make Aliyah and go to Israel. I've been to Israel several times. But I can't really call myself a Zionist unless I become an Israeli and live in the land of Israel. So I consider myself to be pro-Zionist. So the question here is, were the Nazis pro-Zionist? And the answer is a little bit. It's not so simple. First of all, there was the transfer agreement of 1933, 1934, where Zionist negotiators were negotiating with the Nazis to try to help arrange for aliyah for German Jewry. Now, this is portrayed by these anti-Jewish conspiracy theorists as something sinister, as oh, Israel is pro-Nazi. I say that I would have done that's ridiculous. I would have supported that. That is what Israel's all about, trying to help Jews emigrate to Israel. The same type of negotiations occurred in the 1970s with the Soviet Union. And the result was that almost 1 million Jews emigrated to Israel and also the United States and several other countries. They were able to get out of Russia. Does that mean that Israel's pro-communist? Israel's raison d'etre is to be a homeland for the Jewish people. And to negotiate with communists, to go negotiate with Nazis, that's what you do. I mean, those are the hotbeds of anti-Semitism and anti-Judaism. So you want to encourage your people to go there. Now, some people stretch that. Berjerkness is one in particular, to say that the Jews were glad that there was anti-Semitism so that it would force Jews to go to Palestine. That charge also is not to be completely dismissed. I've heard this. I've seen rumbles of it. It's been said that the Israelis were hoping that the Nazis would turn up the heat on Jews so that they would emigrate to Palestine. This does not therefore mean that they knew about the Holocaust. You see, this is where they'll take some simple tendencies and policies among Jewish and Zionist leaders and say, aha, this means they wanted to see 6 million Jews murdered. No, it's simply that in an atmosphere where Jews are not being treated well and they're being persecuted, that is an opportunity for the ingathering of the exiles and for Jews to go to Israel. That's what that's about. It's become it's a stretch to say that they therefore supported the Nazi Holocaust, and the Nazi Holocaust was just that. Nazis, Germans, Hitler, they're responsible for the Holocaust, no one else. But the point I'm making here is that the idea that Zionists were trying to negotiate with the Germans to get Jews to come to Palestine is something that I don't think is any big secret. I support that. If I was around back then, I would have been negotiating as well. I would have been using my radio program, however the size of it, to interview Nazis, to try to find out if there could be some means to help Jews get out of Germany. I would have tried to interview Hitler, to find out what can we do to help Jews get out. You hate the Jews? Okay, I get it. How can we get the Jews out of your country and into Israel, where they'll be safe in a sovereign nation, just like any other people living in a sovereign nation? That, to me, is the moral imperative. And to negotiate with the evil enemies, that's where you go to help people get out. I mean, there's no need negotiating with the United States, where Jews obviously we're citizens and we're American in every sense. You go to the difficult countries and you conduct these negotiations. So, this is a policy that I would have supported. I probably would have also tried to understand why Nazism was so anti-Semitic, and that's an interesting area of research. That's a whole different subject in terms of not only why the right is anti-Semitic, but why the left is anti-Semitic. I'm going to get into that on another podcast, but right now I just wanted to bring up this issue, which is that if to the degree that the Nazis were pro-Zionist, in other words, if they were willing to let their Jews go to Palestine to get rid of them, which would have been their motivation. I don't think it's because they liked the idea of a state of Israel. In fact, there's many documents that show otherwise. But to the degree that they were willing to let Jews get out of Germany, then, I support that. And also, we should note that the international establishment, which is so-called, controlled by Jewish bankers, really, then why was it that the British put warships on the coast of Palestine in the middle of World War II to keep Jews out? And why were they sending Jews to internment camps in Cyprus and on Devil's Island in Africa, which today is known as Mauritius, to keep Jews out? And So there was no, the complicity there is stunning. And also there's the Evian conference, which took place just after the outbreak of World War II, but before the invasion of France, where a delegation of representatives of the establishment countries, including the United States, decided that there would be no Jewish emigration out of Europe. And that included countries that wanted to welcome Jews, like apparently Cuba and the Dominican Republic and some South American countries. They were told they could not. In fact, Roosevelt actually called the president of Cuba and ordered him to turn back the ship, the Liberty, which had Jewish refugees on it, and they ended up having to go back to Europe, where people probably were murdered by the Nazis. So the establishment was not pro Zion, nor was it pro Israel, nor was it pro Jewish. And I mean, if the Jews were so powerful, then how did that happen? That there was this international consensus to basically turn Europe into a prison camp for Jews, a death camp for Jews. That's a question we might ask some of these anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and take care.